Shit's gone sideways.
I'm here with Daniel Towns, comedian Daniel Towns. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for coming on. So with a lot of the guests that I've had for Shit's Gone Sideways, I have known a bit of the background of what they're going to talk about.
Yeah.
With you, I don't know what the story is going to be.
Well, I didn't realise that the bar was going to be set so high with shit going sideways.
Just because I've had some notorious criminals that have... Actually, we've had two guys that have both successfully escaped from Silverwater Prison in the last... as guests in the last few episodes. So,
I escaped.
yes, well, John Killick escaped in a helicopter from
Is this the
Silverwater.
helicopter guy?
Yeah,
I
so
remember that.
he escaped and he was on the run for like 40 days.
It was his girlfriend, right?
His girlfriend hijacked the helicopter.
Yeah, I remember that. That was massive.
And then I chatted to Danny Shannon yesterday, who he spent time in Silverwater and a bunch of other jails, and he escaped just over the fence, and he was on the run for about a week before he got caught.
Isn't that just... That's a remand centre, though, isn't it?
So it's known as MRRC, which is Metropolitan Remand and Reception Centre or whatever it is. But I'm pretty sure there is there's sentence parts of it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Yeah, no, I just know, because I grew up in the area and that was a big story around the time.
Where did you go up?
Oh, Blacktown.
Yeah, okay.
Especially with the helicopter and all that kind of stuff. And the girlfriend doing it.
It was during the during the 2000 Olympics, or maybe it was 1999, just before the Olympics started. Yeah.
Because I think everyone has like a thing in them that was like, not everyone has a thing in them, but I'm sure most people, if you go, oh, yeah, put me in jail, I'll get out. Like I bet a lot of people think they probably could.
Well, John Killick must be like Australia's most successful escape artist, surely, because he attempted to escape 5 times from prison and he succeeded 3 times.
That's impressive,
right?
Like, in that sense. But where do you go though? Like that's my like.
Well, I think it's like a lot harder these days with like facial recognition and cameras everywhere. But he just like hid out in a hotel or motel or something like that.
Yeah, right. Just
but they were the most wanted people in the country, so their face was everywhere, right?
Yeah. And you can't live on the run forever. Must be hard.
So what are we going to talk about?
Shit's gone sideways.
Yeah.
I reckon it could. I mean, for me, it's just going sideways.
Yeah. It's still continually, and there's been no comeback from it. One thing I was hoping that you were going to be talking about today was because like the first time we hung out at a comedy gig that I said that it was kind of like a pinch me kind of moment for me, because I remember watching you do comedy like 16 years ago or whatever it was when you opened for Arj Barker, right? Yeah. And I remember thinking like, this guy's fucking unreal, right? Yeah. And so
and here we are.
I'm hoping some of your story is going to be why a guy that I could see easily being a household
I just
name.
borrowed $2 for a can of Coke.
That would be one of my questions is, I think you're probably one of the most naturally funny blokes in the country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I remember seeing you back then and thinking you're unreal. I'm like, why is this cunt not a household name?
Yeah.
Is that part of the sideways story you're going to talk about, or
no?
not?
Not really.
No?
Like not with comedy, because man, comedy, there's a lot of luck involved.
Yeah.
And, it's a small country with a small population.
Yeah.
And even people that are there will say, oh yeah, there's an element of right place, right time. Like obviously hard work comes into it as well. And everyone that's there that stays there works their ass off, and everyone that gets it and fades didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Where do you sit? Somewhere in the middle?
Oh no, I work my ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like doing stuff on my own.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Because you have control of it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if you look at what goes through, it's a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Not teams together, but it's like, oh, okay, you're part of that whole.
So they all give each other a leg up. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. No, and that's like everything.
Yeah.
That goes in everywhere.
Yeah.
And like I'm happy with where my career is. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I said I'm happy where it is. Like I've got nothing to prove to myself.
Yep.
Like I like stand up, and yeah.
Yeah, you still have fun
I love
with
it. Yeah, I love it. Like, tell me about a job. Tell me about a job. The only thing is you can't do it longer for more time per day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the sense of 1 gig a night, maybe 2, if you can work it out. But if you could do it.
Do you travel much for it?
Yeah. I did, especially before COVID.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit and I kind of put the brakes on. And I just kind of went, I like being in Sydney, so I've cut back some of it. Like, I really don't want to get back on a cruise ship.
Yeah. You've done a lot of cruise ships?
Yeah, just for a couple of years there.
Do they pay well? Because like, I see guys that are on them all the time and it looks like it'd be a pretty good gig.
Yeah, it looks good.
But it's not a reality?
So, you know, there's relationships where everyone posts about how great it is online, but then, you know, then they break up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. Like, the gigs are good.
Yeah.
But
then you're stuck on a boat? Is that?
Yeah, and also, like, it's floating capitalism.
Yeah.
Like, and the way you're just rolled out when they need you. They essentially care about the bar, photography, and shore excursions. And everything else is an expense.
Do you have to do like you got to have like quite a lot of material for those, don't you? I've seen guys that are on those now, and they've got to have like an hour of clean and then an hour of like non-clean material.
Yeah, or some of them it's just clean.
Yeah.
There's a story about I can't remember who it was. I think it might be Lawrence Mooney. Yeah. And like he did one and they said to him, well, you can't make any jokes about the captain. And he worked straight out and he was like, all right, so I was fucking the captain.
And did he ever get a cruise ship?
No, he didn't. Please don't quote me. That like there is a story about Mooney being a one and done, but there's also a story about, I'm pretty sure, Ostentatious being a one and done as well. So like it could have been either of them, but I know Mooney's got a one and done as well.
That's so funny. But then you also get like instant legendary status for doing that as well.
Like it still goes. Like it still goes.
Oh, I'm fucking the captain.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the money's okay, but it's not like it's a lifestyle trade-off.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want money in your bank and never be at home, or be at home and, you know.
Do you do many like festival shows?
Yeah, I did like a lot. I was on 13 Melbournes, like
wow.
Sydney 11 times.
Wow.
Like I've done every Sydney.
Yeah.
Since it started.
Yeah.
The Fringes, Edinburgh, Adelaide. Yeah.
What's been your favourite?
When they end. No, they're good fun. They're so much fun, and you get a lot out of them. But then if that's not your path, like if that's not your way through, like I've had this conversation with Cassie Workman once outside Town Hall, and like she'd been nominated for the best show, like best newcomer, best show, all that kind of stuff. And then we're talking. It was like 5-6 years later. And I said, I just feel like we're digging sideways. You know, I said,
there's no forward progress happening here.
And every time I say it now, she's like, I always remember when you said that, because that's exactly how it feels.
I feel, because I've put my hand up to do Melbourne this year, and I'm doing 16 shows at like 10:30 at night. And I got no idea. I feel like I'm in for a fucking world of pain. You know,
not really. It'll just be like this, except I won't be talking about and you got to fill the hour.
That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah.
No, that's good. So shit going sideways.
Yeah, tell me about it.
When do you want to know? Like, which part of my life are we talking about? Childhood. These are not going to keep up with. I mean, the biggest one I'd have would probably be, the most recent one would be the start of lockdown.
Yeah, so what happened?
Well, I never really drank much alcohol.
Like your entire life before?
Yeah, well, when I was, like, I drank from, 16 to, 19. Like, I quit swimming. I swam till I was 16, and then I quit, and then I started partying.
Were you good in the pool?
Yeah.
I can imagine you've got the frame. You got the frame for it.
It's hard to say that and not sound like a hero, but yeah.
Yeah. You got...
And I quit that, but then I always felt I was missing something. You know, so parties would happen at school, and I'd have to be home at 9:30 or 10 because I had training the next morning.
What's the
and all
trade-off
that kind of
guys
stuff.
have, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I stopped that and started smoking, and then I started drinking, and then I discovered pot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I like this more than alcohol. So it was about 19, 20 that I said, I'm not drinking anymore. And I stopped drinking, and I didn't touch it till about a year before lockdown. And I just have like a glass of wine with dinner.
So what your drug of choice was just weed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
And it was good. It stopped me gambling.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be anywhere with big bright lights and flashing things because I was so paranoid.
And you also, compared to the money people spend on booze going out, right?
Totally.
You're saving a lot of money there as well.
Oh, you'd think.
No. Smoking that much weed.
You'd think.
I guess I forgot to factor in how much weed you're smoking. And how much money you're spending on munchies, right?
Let's not discuss that.
Yeah, all right.
Let's not look at my bank balance. Yeah, and then lockdown kind of started, and we were just talking. I was talking with the producer before about like I said, I just started playing a lot of video games, but I also like my drinking starting time got earlier. Yeah. But the ones with dinner never stopped, and then they started after dinner too, and like so I went from a glass or two with dinner to all of a sudden I was drinking like 3 or 4 bottles of wine.
What, in a night?
No, in a day.
Yeah, fuck.
Like an all day.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize how long, like how much it was till I saw a doctor and he's like, fuck, that's 28 drinks. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
You just reminded me, the article that came out in the Daily Telegraph after I got sentenced, it said, Andrew Hamilton, comedian, PR man, pizza shop owner, and now convicted drug supplier, right? And underneath it said, a one-time King's Cross pizza shop owner who was consuming 30 bottles of wine a week has now been convicted of blah, blah, blah.
30 bottles of wine a week.
Yeah, so that's
a lot. That's about 4 a day.
That's about 4 a day. So
yeah, right.
I was doing the math. I was like, it sounds like I was doing about the same as you.
But what, you were doing them at night or?
Well, it was all day and night because I wasn't sleeping for like days at a time, right? Because I just sit there and have a Coke-fueled bender.
Yeah, okay.
For like 3 or 4, sometimes 5 days. And the whole time I'd have Jimmy bring over like cases of wine, and then I'd sit there with like 4 or 5 packs of ciggies and just go wine, line, smoke, wine, line, smoke, wine, line, smoke.
And it's so, I mean, I never did it with lines, but it's so easy to drink when like,
once you get on a roll.
Like, oh, no, I know that exact. Like, I have done them when I'm younger. And I know that exact sequence. Yeah, but like, oh, well, that went quick.
Yeah, and then suddenly my fingers are pale yellow because I've smoking so much cigarettes. But yeah, that's why you made me think of that. So I know what it's like to be sinking that much piss. But
was it a problem for you? Like in a sense, like when you stopped it, did you notice it, or did you stop a lot of things at once? And
I mean, I
don't know what was
stopped it all because the Raptor squad smashed through my door.
Yeah, no, I know, I
know. But so I mean, sobering up in jail. No, I mean, I felt like shit because I hadn't slept for a few days. But then I didn't like have any kind of major withdrawals. I didn't feel.
That's all right.
Yeah,
that must have been a humbling experience though, like sleeping in. Like those first few nights in prison, like, what have I done? Like, you know what I mean? When you get your clear head and
it was made so much worse.
Down.
It was all bad. But then you're in quarantine with nothing to read, no TV, nothing. So, like, you're just constantly stuck in your own thoughts.
Yeah, in your head.
Yeah. And that was like the only thing I was thinking was like, fuck, I've fucked myself. Like,
yeah, shit's gone sideways.
Game over.
Actually, there's an interesting comparison for you. Seeing as you've seen one of them and I've seen the other. Like I met my girlfriend.
Yeah.
She ran all of the entertainment on a cruise ship.
Right.
And, like she lives here now. You know, like and that was like.
Did I hear you say somewhere else that she's Canadian?
Yeah, she's Canadian. Yeah. And but there was an article with a video, and it was from the inside of Parklea Prison. And I sent it to her with no context whatsoever.
Yeah.
And all she wrote back once she saw the inside of a cell was, "It's better than a crew cabin." How have they got 4 windows?
That's legit, yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, at the start of lockdown, I started drinking. And you don't notice it, right? Because it just creeps up.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like it just started getting earlier and earlier. And then all of a sudden I'm starting at like 10 a.m.
But you're living with your missus, right?
Yeah.
And so was she working from home?
Yeah.
And so she's trying to do work, and you're just like on the wines.
But because I just topped it up all day, I wasn't really drunk.
Yeah.
Like she'd say it to me, like towards the end, she said to me, "I think you're getting a drinking problem," and I said, "Well, I'm never drunk." And what's the problem? But it's just like going through that much in a day.
It's also, I mean, that much in a day, plus if you're thinking, oh, I should crack open the wines like before midday, it always strikes me as like...
Mate, the worst one, I got up, no shit, I threw up in the sink. It was just like red wine-coloured backsplash.
That's it, you don't know if it's like you got... You don't know if it's blood or
there
red.
There was nothing solid to it. It was just this red wine-coloured spray. And I was just shaky and sweaty, and I'm like, that's disgusting. And I had some scrambled eggs and a glass of wine.
You think that would be the thing where you're like, oh, maybe you should put down the booze?
No, that's what I did. That was when I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe I should try and do something here. And try, mate, I don't know. Like to anyone that's ever gone through alcohol withdrawals, I spoke to a lot of people like that I know have done it because, there's no shortage in comedy.
Yep.
And yeah, and I was like, no, I know what I'm in for. I've done this with other substances.
So did you rein it back? Did you rein it back in?
Yeah, I just stopped it, but I had help.
What, like medicine?
Yeah, from my GP.
Yeah, because I had that. I was diagnosed previously with alcohol use disorder, which is like not an alcoholic, but when I drink, I become an absolute degenerate. Right? I can't. Once I start, I can't stop, and so I got prescribed naltrexone for that.
Yeah, I've had that,
and I found that helped to an extent because it just dulled the effects of alcohol. Like I'd have to drink way more to feel the same, like to get drunk.
Yeah.
And so that meant that I was less likely to gamble or do cocaine because I was much more likely to do those when I was drunk, if that makes sense.
Well, I'd say out of the 3 that they prescribe, like the psychopharma ones or whatever they're called, for that stuff, like antabuse, naltrexone, and what's the other one? Campril. Yeah. I'd say naltrexone was the only one that did anything for me.
Really?
Because it actually did. Like I could feel it in my head. Like I didn't feel anything from it, but there was definitely that. No, I don't want to drink. I don't need to drink. And that's what it does.
So antabuse is supposed to make you like violently throw up or feel sick.
It's meant to make you feel sick, and it brings on the effects of a hangover.
Did you try that one?
Yeah.
Did it work?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like not with me. Like I didn't feel any worse than had I had another, like had I not had it and had a drink.
Yeah, okay. Because my ex-brother-in-law, he used to take it, and it worked effectively because he knew how terrible he would feel if he drank on it, so it stopped him from having it. But
yeah, right.
So I mean, obviously these things work differently on different people, but
well, look, to be honest with you, the first time they give it to you and the doctor gives it to you and they go, look, this is going to make you not want to drink, and if you do, you're going to be sick. Your head goes, we'll see about that.
Yeah. I'm going to say, I would have been curious as well. I never got quite to the point. I think that was going to be the next step for me, was trying antabuse, so that I would have definitely tested it, right?
Well, I did.
Just that curiosity thing.
I know someone that did, like, Fleety did that he said that when I did my podcast with him, like when he was on naltrexone, the first thing he did was went and scored and straight in his arm.
Yeah.
Just yeah, no, I don't know. And yeah, like I did it. I went to my GP referred me to the drug and alcohol place in Newtown.
Yep.
And I went there like to do the outpatient thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you'd know the kind of people because I'm sure half of them have been in similar facilities to you.
Yes.
But actually, side note, I did a gig with someone a few weeks ago and they just came out of rehab for prescription stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And like they really wanted to go and they were ready to go and they were ready to get clean. But I said, what was it like? I said, because I'm like going in. I said, that's terrifying. And he's like, oh, no, the security. And, it's all that. But I said, the guy next to me is just like tweaking like a meth head, just coming down, just in his room, just going, the fucking judge. Just
Crazy
like,
cunts.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also, like, there's so many guys that I know that have gone to rehab and, like, they've smuggled in so many drugs, like, into rehab.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Either for themselves or other people, and
it's like that Breaking Bad when Jesse goes there to sell them meth.
there was right. It's exactly like that. There was a guy that was in Parklea prison with me who had been kicked out of rehab and sent to prison because he had found some plant in the backyard of this rehab center that they could smoke. And so he rolled it up and a couple of the guys smoked it. And then like no one knew about it. And the next day, these guys have these fucking like truth circles, right? Where they're encouraged to dob each other in. And this guy just fully snitched on him. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. And so then he was just kicked out of the rehab center and told you've got like 7 hours or 6 hours to report to the police station to be taken to prison. So I think he went to the pub or something for a couple of hours and then handed himself in. But when he got to Parklea, he said to me, because I was trying to get bail from prison to rehab, right? And he goes, oh, don't worry, mate. He goes, don't bother. They're stricter in rehab than they are in jail. You goes, you're better off here. This is a maximum security prison.
Mate, the perspective you have to have at rock bottom. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, prison's better than rehab.
Yeah. Imagine a guy trying to talk me out to go to rehab. He's like, fuck that, man. They're too strict there. And I'm like, they're too strict in rehab.
I did some of the online things, which I found interesting. The smart therapy and behavioral stuff. And I don't know if you ever looked at AA or any of those.
I've been to GA before, but I've never been to AA.
What's GA?
Gambling Anonymous.
Oh, okay. Oh, were you a gambler?
Yeah.
Oh, what was your thing?
Anything and everything.
Really? Where'd you start
Pokies.
though? Pokies?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone starts on pokies. Yeah, right. And did you progress to anything major or?
I bet on sports, TAB.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Well, I suppose with a non-stop income
Yeah.
like that, yeah, you can kind of do whatever you want. I taught myself how to count cards at the start of lockdown as well, like for blackjack.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried it at the cast?
The maths works.
Yeah.
Like it does. I got to the point where I was doing it like on games. Like I got all the blackjack apps and all the games and I was trying the maths, but there's just no way I could do it that fast, like at a table.
So you're not quite Dustin Hoffman level yet?
And also, like I did go down a rabbit hole on it and you've got people that have done it and it's like, oh yeah.
So you can do it with one deck of cards, is that what you're saying? But like when they, at the casinos, they use like multiple,
6 or 8.
multiple decks.
But it only adds one extra step into the count.
Okay.
Like it's not as complicated as they thought. And a lot of casinos got rid of that because it took away casual gamblers and they make more off casual gamblers than they lose off people that know how to count. Even counting isn't legal.
So what? So are you saying that they got rid of the multiple decks or that they don't police too much?
No, a lot of them don't use multiple decks anymore.
Yeah, okay.
You know, a lot of them did get rid of it because it's,
But there's still, the eye in the sky would still be looking for someone counting, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's why, can you do it? And like, I think as a comic, like I probably definitely could train myself to sit there with a straight face and just like...
Surely you could get away with it once, right?
But it's just doing the numbers so quickly and it's nothing's guaranteed. It's just put the bet up when the numbers are in your favor.
Yeah.
And take it down when they're not.
Yeah.
Like, if you got a 5, would you, like, if you got 15, would you hit or would you?
Well, if you're saying that from card counting, you're saying that I have like an 85% chance that I won't bust if I hit, then I would hit, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of what you're saying is the card with the card counting, when you've got a higher probability of being safe when you hit again, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not good enough to do that. So I'm just like I'm there as a drunk cunt with 15 going, I've got a lucky feeling. Let it hit.
Mate, there's all these things online. There's even like at one stage I had this thing saved and it just shows you everything to hit on, everything to fold on, everything to double on.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh wow, this is like there is a maths to it, obviously. But then people are reading stuff online and guys are like, but at the end of the day, you're sitting in the casino for 12 hours a day for minimum wage. It's not glamorous.
Yeah.
You're only going to make a lot of money if you got a lot of money.
Yeah, sure.
And then there was another guy that's like, well, I went in with 10 grand prepared to lose it and I've never gone into my original, like I do it once a month, once a week kind of thing.
I'd rather, if I was to ever gamble again, I'd much prefer just playing poker, like against guys and just paying the blinds to the casino or whatever, but playing against actual people. Right?
You can win, but you can never win, right? Because what do they have to pay out? Like the amount they have to pay out, casinos. It's like pokies as well. There's a certain amount that has to be paid out.
I mean, it's just the balance of probabilities, on a roulette wheel or whatever.
But even those are tipped in. Like I can't remember what it is, but the house edge or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
like the casino's edge.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got 0 and 00 on a roulette wheel, right? And that's the house.
Yeah, is it roulette that has 36?
Yeah.
Okay,
36 numbers, and then there's the zeros.
So
right?
if you hit the number I don't know if here, but definitely in the States, like if you hit the number in the States, it only pays 30 to 1, not 36.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that house edge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even when they lose, they're still winning.
Yep.
They still take off the top because they've always got that slight advantage. That's why I landed on blackjack. I mean, there's still a house edge, but it's the only one where the odds don't change every game. It's 3-2.
Yeah.
Every time, you know.
Well, that's why I prefer just to play poker because I'd rather just be like losing to some other or winning
losing to your
some
mates.
dickhead, than the casino.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of that at school. We started gambling, drinking, all the degenerate stuff.
So you're still drinking now, but just less, or what?
No, I stopped. Well, hang on, let's keep going. So I went to the a place at RPA, and I got called in to see the doctor, and they just treat you like anyone off the street, obviously, because it's not a private rehab facility. So you could go in there in a tuxedo, and they're still going to treat you like you're out on parole.
Yep.
And just, this is what it is. One size fits all.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if that's what it is, I said, I got a script for that at home, and I got 50 Valium. Like, if you're only going to give me 20, like, I'm just going to do it at home. Like, I'm not going to walk up here every day just to get a couple of Tic Tacs and then walk home. Like I said, this place is a trigger. And they're like, all right. So I did that. And like the first 3 days, I was having like maybe 8 or 10 of them by lunchtime just to stop the shaking.
Wow.
Like, it was so bad. Like, I couldn't do anything. Like, I literally sat on the floor for a good couple of weeks.
It's crazy that you got that affected over like such a short time period.
But it escalated quickly.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it was. Your body wasn't used to it.
Yeah, maybe.
After being a weed smoker for decades.
But if it wasn't used to it, I wouldn't have gotten up to 4 bottles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like I went straight hard, cold turkey, no alcohol, and I didn't have those kind of effects. But they sound horrible.
Right? It was awful. Yeah, I know someone else that was a big drinker too, and she said the same thing. She's like, no, I didn't really get any physical. And that's what my doctor said to me. He goes, look, some people do, some people don't.
Like, you build up a tolerance quickly, but maybe it was because it was over a shorter time period. When you cut it off, your body wasn't quite ready for that. I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, I did relapse.
Yeah.
And then I did it again for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And my problem is when I relapse with things, I don't go back to just dabbling.
Yeah.
Like, there's a day of dabble, and then the next day is like more than it ever was.
But you were saying you weren't getting drunk, is that right? You would just drink.
Tipsy.
Yeah.
But like, I was never hammered. Like, I wasn't slurring my words. I wasn't falling over. Like, another alcoholic said to me, they asked how I drank, and I told them. I said, the glass is never empty. And they're like, oh, so you're a topper.
A topper.
I said, what's that? They go, you're just constantly topping the glass up. And I'm like, yeah, it's never empty. And they're like, oh, okay. I was a binger. So I just drink from like 5 to 7 and then stop.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you're drinking all day, like, if you know you start drinking at 7, like, it starts to get hard around 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's fuck, I want to drink. But if you drink all day, like, you've got that feeling all day. I'm not saying either of them are easier to beat, but maybe that's why psychologically it was a little bit trickier, because it was like an all day thing, that just kind of got out of hand.
Does your missus drink at all?
Yeah, but she's a one and done.
Okay.
Like, she'll have a glass and stop.
So she joined you for one drink at some point in the afternoon or evening, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But meanwhile you're up to like glass number 10 or something.
Do you want a glass of wine with your omelette?
So at some point she'd join you for one and then leave you to it.
Yeah, she'd just kind of tap out or, keep working and doing a thing, and I'd just be like, there you go, I'm self-employed. Drinking out of the bottle like a bum.
And were you swapping the booze for weed or still smoking weed at the same time? Like, have we gone from one to the other, or now we're doing 2?
No, we're doing 2.
Yeah.
Now we're doing 2.
Did it affect your intake of weed at all? Were you doing like more or less because of the wine?
Probably the same.
Yeah, okay. No effect.
Yeah, probably the same. Maybe, a little bit more because you're a little bit more carefree.
Yeah.
And, you spill some, you're like, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
You just gave me a flashback to having a full glass of red wine in bed one time, and because I had like a TV in my bedroom, and I was watching this like horror movie called The Thing, a John Carpenter film, and there was like a scary bit in that. It scared me so much. I went, I threw the whole glass of like red wine in the air. And I could just remember it raining down on like white bed sheets.
Red wine. It's only red wine for me though.
What are we drinking? Shiraz, Pinot Noir?
Yeah, Shiraz.
Yeah.
Shiraz, no Pinot.
Good, full-bodied
red. Yeah. Thick. With some legs, Nice. Good stuff. I never really liked white wine. I drank whiskey when I was younger, but that was more because beer just made me go to the toilet, a lot.
What just made you want to piss all night? Yeah.
And then wine, the way I started to justify that to myself in the beginning when I started drinking, it's like, oh no, people say 1 glass of wine a day is healthy. I can do that. And then I started with that. And then, down it goes. And then, I went to a wedding and had a glass at a wedding. And I was like, oh, that's right. This is fun.
This is nice.
You know, and then I went to a musical and had a glass there, and I was like, oh, that was like a week later. I'm like, oh, that was fun too.
Yeah.
But then that was enough to, and then every time after that, you're just trying to recreate like the fun. It's like chasing a high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's never the same. It's like the first time I played a video game and I was a little bit tipsy and I was beating up other people online. I'm like, this is so much fun. And then you try it again and it's like, oh, I'm too sloppy and I can't see straight.
Do you think part of it was because during lockdown, like people were just so bored? I think so many people were drinking way, way more than they've ever done.
Oh, definitely.
Because they're just stuck in their own houses.
Oh, yeah. Suicide levels went up. Yeah. Like everything went up. Yeah, definitely. Like you see all that stuff, even in comedy clubs when people ask who drank way more than they should have in lockdown.
Did you find that it affected your mood? Were you
massively?
Yeah,
way more than weed. Way more. Like to the point where like I'm on antidepressants now. Still, like after I got clean, like after I stopped drinking, like I went back to like I spent a good after I came out of it whatever and like could get up off the floor. I spent probably 6 months in bed. And when I say that, I mean, I'd get up, walk the dog, and I'd go home. I'd be back in bed by 9.
Yeah, fuck.
My girlfriend would be going to work, and I'd be diving into bed with the dog, and and then I'd just lie there with my eyes closed, not asleep till like 4, and I'd walk him again.
Did it hit you coming with lockdown? Right, you've gone from being a stand-up comedian to having nothing to do because there's no fucking gigs.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have felt pretty shit.
I was ready for a break, I got to say.
Oh,
like the first, I loved it. The first one, I fucking loved it. But looking back, it was a nightmare. Because all I did was drink and play video games. But when it came, I was like, this is the best. Because I was away 2 weeks a month.
Yeah.
I was constantly on the road. I was always in hotels and whatever. I was like, no, I'm ready to spend some time at home. Had a dog. I just want to spend some time with my dog and my girlfriend, And then, all of a sudden it's 3 years later and I'm like, oh, no, this could have ended 2 years ago. Like, I don't know if that drinking thing would have happened if COVID didn't.
Yeah.
Because I would have been working every night.
Yep.
And like, that's the one thing still, like, if I got a gig, I won't drink.
And it's it. And it's also that thing of like, idle hands. You sit around bored for so long, you'll find something to do to fill the time, right?
Yeah. Oh, it just blows my mind though, like how many people will say like pot's bad. And I'm not saying it's great, but like from someone that did that a lot, and that someone that then did it with alcohol, like stopping pot, I've never felt as bad as I did as when I stopped alcohol. And when I say that, I mean even after, like mentally. Like I went to the doctor and I told him, I said, man, I've been in bed for, all day for like a good 6 months. And he's like, oh yeah, you're depressed. He goes, you're getting all that fake serotonin from the drinking and now it's up to your brain to produce it and it's, you know what I mean? So there was an undersupply of serotonin. So I was just like, and he prescribed antidepressants and I was really apprehensive to go on them. And I took them and I got to say, it's probably the only thing that actually got me out of bed.
Really? They helped?
Massively. Yeah. Massively. And I've had them before and they didn't. So maybe I got the right ones or maybe I was actually that far gone that, but I did notice it. And they said, look, it builds up over a while. It's not going to be instant. But I definitely noticed that over a couple of weeks, it's like, oh no, I do feel that's a ridiculous fear. Like that's stupid.
Do you still take them now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But cut way back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I would like to stop them,
That's what I dated a couple of girls that have been on antidepressants, and one of them tried to like just stop them cold turkey, and that went terribly. I think you do need to wean yourself back off them, don't you?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, I do know that, yes, because I lived with someone else who was on them, and the same thing happened to them, and they went pretty nutso when they ran out.
Yeah.
But then the ones I'm on, I've had days where I don't feel the script.
Yeah.
For like a week after they've run out, and I'm fine. Kind of thing. Like I do notice it a little bit, but not enough to, like these ones don't do anything. The last ones I had like made my mouth really dry. I could kind of feel a buzz.
Yeah.
Whereas these ones I just take them and it's just like, that's it.
Do you think it affects, like, are there any other side effects that you notice that are negative from?
Not on these ones.
Yeah.
I will say that, but on the other ones I was put on definitely. But I think it depends on who is taking them as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of doctors look down on brain science. But, mate, our bodies are the same. Every heart does the same thing. Everyone's lungs are meant to do the same thing. Like, everyone's head is different. And I think that's why, when it comes to that stuff, it's like, try these ones, try these ones, try these ones. Because they don't know about the wire. You know what I mean? Like, it's a harder thing to to diagnose. So yeah, the first lot they just made me so flat, and I'd get up on stage completely emotionless.
Fuck, like a zombie.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just kind of zonked.
That's why I'm afraid to. I've been unmedicated I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
I've been unmedicated since I was like 18. So what's that been, like 18 years? Because I used to have them when I was 16. I used to have like 8 dexamphetamine tablets a day, and it helped me to concentrate. But then I was like a zombie all day, and I'd grind my teeth in class. When I lay in bed at night, my mind would just be racing, and I find it very hard to go to sleep. And so, they helped me to concentrate at school and mellow me out a bit, but the side effects were just so shit that it's like turned me off them.
Dex is a pharmaceutical meth, right? It's just a micro dose of meth.
And so I'd be terrified if I took them now, that like similar to that I'd try and do comedy and be a zombie on stage. But it also killed my appetite. I love food. Like I'm not convinced. I know I need to play around with it because I have so much trouble concentrating now, but I'm scared of the side effects of being medicated again.
Well, I think Ritalin is meant to be a little bit smoother.
Yeah,
I know someone that has ADHD and they've been on both, and they said that to me because I had a prescription for Dexies, and I just didn't I didn't have ADHD. Yeah, like he said that you don't have it. Here you go. So I tried it, and with comedy, I'd say it was cheating. But I was saying that this other person, I was saying, man, I just didn't like it. I said they made I could do things faster and whatnot, but everything was quicker. I got angry faster. You know what I mean? Like every emotion was right at the top, and I felt like on stage it was cheating. Yeah, because you're putting down hecklers before they even pipe up. Whoa. You know, but then he said, Ritalin's a lot smoother. Like it's not as an aggressive. Yeah.
I used to take modafinil, which is used off-label as a drug for ADHD, but it's supposed to be for people with sleep problems. It's used off-label as a drug to help people with ADHD, but it's not specifically designed for that. But if you go to a doctor and say that you're a shift worker or something like that, you can say that you've had friends that have used modafinil and it's worked for them, and you can get it. Otherwise, you can order it from India for fucking nothing. And so I used to. If you read articles about it, it was referred to as the limitless drug. And so I used to have that sometimes, and that used to make a big difference to me.
I've heard of it. What's in it? Or is this something I'm going to have to look up afterwards?
I'm not a doctor. No,
because it is something I have heard of before.
Yeah. But I used to take, I took that for a while, and that certainly seemed to help me to concentrate without having the negative side effects of what I was experiencing with Dexies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're I mean, it's kind of hard. I slept okay when I was taking them. I slept pretty well. I even said that to the guy. What's this going to do to my sleep? He's like, you'll be fine. You'll sleep better. Yeah. Okay. And it was after a while I did. But I still remember when I went to see him, on the morning, he gave me the script. And I went, all right, I'll go pick these up. It was my appointment was at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was so tired. I'm having a nap as soon as I get home. And I picked them up at the chemist. And I thought, I'll just try one. And I had it. Yeah. And then I just lay on the couch, face down with my eyes open, just staring at the floor for 4 hours. I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't.
Oh, wow, because you were so wired?
Yeah, because it kicked in. I'm well, I know I'm tired, but just staring at the ground, chewing my jaw.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. There seems to be a lot of people that are getting diagnosed with ADHD now.
Nah, you're just in comedy now.
There's a lot in comedy, right, that are on stage at the moment saying, I was just recently diagnosed with ADHD, or people that think that they are. But, so who knows? It sounds like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be either getting prescribed Ritalin or Dexies.
I think it's also a lot with comedy especially. I feel like a lot of people come into it and then start looking for something wrong with them. To justify it?
To justify the reasons they got into comedy, or just
their mentalness, or whatever it is, whatever their thing is. I did a game show once, and I won't name the other act, but it was a how well do you know kind of thing. And the question I got asked about them was how old were they when they got diagnosed with ADHD? Yeah. And one of the other guests had a stab and he was like, 11. And I went, how old are you now? And they went, 36. And I said, how old were you when you started doing comedy? And like, 31. I said, 32. And they went, fuck you. Like, because I got it, because I just thought, straight away, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong, but I think a lot of people just got, like, you feel, I don't know, like comedy is just a ragtag bunch of misfits, you know, and then you feel like, oh, maybe there is something.
A lot of lost souls.
Yeah, when you felt different your whole life, and then you're like, well, maybe there is, and, and then you talk to a doctor, and
What made you first do comedy?
A friend suggested it to me.
Yeah.
Like we were at a gig somewhere, and I think it might have been an open mic night, and he said, I reckon you could do that. And then I just thought about it for about 2 years. Like I watched a lot of stuff.
How old were you? You must have been young.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, young. And then I did it, and it went well. And then I kind of just kept doing it. Like I got offered another gig that night.
Yeah. And
it kind of just went from there. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting though, because I look back now, especially after the last 3 years, it's like, fuck, I've done a lot. I've run a business, and most of this stuff I would not have done if it wasn't for comedy. Like I doubt I would have seen as much of the world as I have. I'd probably just be a suburban kid from Black. You know what I mean? Like it's opened my eyes a lot, which is great. But then at the same time, it's like, how do you translate these skills to the real world?
How do I relate to everyone else? Yeah.
Like Akmal said to me once, he's like, mate, this is the biggest scam, this job. I'm like, what do you mean? Because you just make jokes and people give you money. But
then you speak to the average person and like, fuck, I could never do that,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have people that come up to me after gigs. I remember once on a cruise ship, a guy came up to me after a gig, and I really don't like talking about it. Like, I understand why they do, especially if they've just seen it, but I'll always, not deflect, but I'll deflect and generally ask questions about them and just pray that I hit on something interesting. And he was a prison guard.
Oh.
And I was like, well, why are we talking about comedy?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that stuff. That's interesting. Like, yeah. What are the guards like in Australia?
It varies, like, from prison to prison and person to person. There's plenty of guys that failed to become cops that become prison guards, right? That are just, like, act like heroes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and some of them are probably just doing a job, right?
A belt full of tools and, like, acting like the absolute rent-a-cops, and there's guys that are just doing it like a job, and when you ask them a question or try and talk to them, they'll treat you like a human being, but then other ones just look at you like you're an absolute piece of dirt. So it varies.
That's demoralizing.
I found it
dehumanizing.
I certainly think, from my experience anyway, that they're way worse at private prisons. So like Parklea is a private run facility.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. And so
right.
I
as
think,
opposed to state.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like Long Bay public prison. There's a few. I forget how many there are private jails in Australia, but there's a few of them.
Because you would have thought the private ones would have been the ones where the money were, and maybe more.
Well, the buildings and all the facilities is more advanced at the private prisons, but there just seems to be like an absolutely toxic culture for the guards that work there, compared to places like Long Bay, where the place is an absolute shithole. It's run down, but at least the prison officers that work there seem to be like they're enjoying their job more, and they seem to be generally far more interested in treating inmates like human beings. Obviously it's about mutual respect. If you're being reasonable to them, they'll be reasonable back. But I thought there was a huge difference between the cultures between a private and a public. I think private ones are toxic.
Outside of being there, making sure you don't get out and stopping any trouble that kicks off, what's the actual job of the guard? Like, I'm sure boredom sets in a lot.
Yeah, they literally, there'd be guards at Long Bay that their job is to just sit outside a fence at the Oval and just sit there miles away from the guys that are on the other side of the Oval, just sit there and watch to make sure no one's like stabbing each other or bashing each other all day. But they would just sit there, not even watching the yard, and just talk to each other.
Right, and just wait for a scream or something.
They just sit on a chair all day. Yeah.
They just got to drive you nuts.
Yeah, it'd be very boring. And you can see why, a lot of them start to get overweight because they just
Oh, is that a thing? Yeah, right.
Yeah, a lot of bigger ones, but
because I tell you what, like there's a certain, like to want to work in a prison, even that psychologically is a interesting.
it seemed like there were a lot of there certainly is a profile of some women that get jobs there that they
yeah, right.
they like the ego boost of the attention.
Okay. Of course.
I think there's a lot of that, and you can see how some women get tricked into or seduced into doing favors for inmates, right? And you think, how does this happen all the time where female prison officers get arrested for like smuggling in drugs for an inmate or having sex with an inmate, right? But it's because there are these guys that either probably already predisposed to be attracted to bad boys, but then also they've got these guys that are constantly putting on the smooth talk on them all day, and then eventually it lands.
Mate, inmate sex with a guard, I think that might have topped George Costanza's conjugal visit sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty because there's also the level of authority that has to be crossed, that line of authority.
There was an article in the that I saw from the UK, like recently, of an inmate who had it off with a prison officer working in the clinic, or maybe she was a nurse in the clinic, and a prison officer, right? At the same time. So he was getting it off with two chicks. And this guy, I looked at him, he was like, not a good-looking fella. So I'm like, he must have been doing something, right?
He must have had something off her. That's wild. Did you see that cop in the States? The one was in the paper?
The one that made her way through the whole police team.
But just the headline of the article, the clip I saw was officers suspended because one of them let 5 officers run a high-speed train on her. And I'm like, I know what that slang means, but surely that's not right. And then I've clicked into it.
Yeah, it is right.
Oh, mate, but even the sound effects in the background with train tracks and trains going past.
People jump on that shit and make memes out of it so quickly.
Oh, you can't make it up.
You go onto like Instagram and it's just people posting joke after joke after joke. It was like whatever state it was, the police force team building exercise, and then it was just a picture of her, like as being she's the team building exercise.
And they had a whole WhatsApp group chat, and apparently, like her husband's staying with her.
Yeah, but also she claimed that they were in an open relationship, and he was like, "No, I was never on board with that." But it sounds like he's a very conservative, churchy guy that's going to be like, "I'm going to stand by my wife. We're going to figure this out." Like, mate,
she's gone.
Let her go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's full on. That's crazy. Yeah. We hit that spot.
So is there any more to do with the drinking? No, we've covered that.
Oh no, look, there's still definitely a psychological thing there. I mean, I could talk about addiction on anything or whatever for hours. I find it fascinating, like an all brain kind of stuff.
But you haven't really fallen victim to addiction too badly?
Nothing hardcore, you know. But like I've always alcohol is definitely the worst one, I'd say, like for what it did to me.
Yeah.
The most dangerous one was oxys.
Yeah, okay.
Like, but that was legitimate with a script. Yeah. But I kind of saw it early, and I went to the doctor and I said, "Oh, this is."
What was that prescribed for?
I had a hernia operation, so I probably didn't even need them. Probably could have got given Panadeine for it, but they gave me those with a repeat, and I saw it through because, well, you know, they're good. Yeah.
And what was that like on those?
Oh man, well, it was those and endo. Oh really?
No.
Oh, it's them and endo. Like it's just like I'm not going to glorify anything here, but yeah.
It felt like you were in paradise for a bit.
Well, I know now why people are injecting drug users like constantly like that, because if they wake up, I mean, if they fall asleep, it's gone.
Yeah. So
they're just like keeping themselves awake, and that's why they're drinking a lot of coffee and all that kind of stuff, just so they don't fall asleep and blow the high.
Wow.
You know? So yeah, those are, I woke up at 4 a.m. the first morning when I had none left, and my first thought was, fuck, I got no pills. And mate, I just sweated that entire day. Like I had like goosebumps up my skin, I had diarrhea all day, and I'm like, oh, this is withdrawals. And I went to the doctor, and he's like, yeah, they're withdrawals. Do you want more? And I said, no.
Fuck.
I said, give me Valium and Panadeine Fort, and like I'll wean myself off. And I did that over a couple of weeks. But in that time, I watched so many like documentaries and I did a lot of reading up on those drugs.
But isn't it crazy how quickly the doctors just going to jump on, do you want more?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Right?
I find it weird that, if you don't need something, you can get it. But if you need it, it's so hard to get because you look like you need it or you want it.
I find it hard. Obviously, I'm biased as a convicted drug dealer, but
Sure,
I find it hard to marry up. That there are legal drugs and there are illegal drugs, and people can just as easily fall down the rabbit hole with ones that are prescribed by a doctor.
Oh, mate. Well, on that, like, I can easily see why people would have crossed the road to heroin because it would be easier than lying to a doctor because a drug dealer doesn't care. You don't have to go in with a story and, my back's, you can't see it, but I feel it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, give me that. All right, done.
Yeah.
Transaction over. Like there's no questions. It's just, that's the business. Yeah, it was with the doctor. You either need a shady doctor or...
But I'd sell mushrooms and acid to people that would use it for like psychotherapy, There was a guy who would buy MDMA off me because he had post-traumatic stress disorder and he'd take MDMA while he had his therapy sessions. And that was like the only thing that he found was a combination that worked for him so that he could talk about these traumatic experiences while he was having a high. And so he could link a negative mindset to a positive body feeling.
Yeah,
and that was how he was able to overcome, that's how he kind of addressed it.
Well, that's what they're doing now with ketamine and micro doses of ketamine because that's a anesthetic.
Yep.
So if someone goes through a really traumatic experience, so I was watching this on a documentary the other night, like they'll give them that micro dose of ketamine and the anesthetic, it doesn't erase what happened, but it does something to the brain that stops that thing forming. So every time they're in a situation where it could turn, they don't get that. Like there's not the panic and they see a guy in a black jacket walk through the door, and every black jacket is a trigger. But like all of a sudden it stops that kind of happening.
There's a documentary that came out recently on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind. It's all talking about this psychedelic drugs.
I think I watched that. I think that might
mushrooms, MDMA, ketamine, right? Which were all like all the things mainly that I got arrested for. And how all these things can have benefits for treatment of a whole range of psychological issues, right?
Wasn't MDMA developed by the military?
I'm not sure. Maybe it was.
Look, a lot of them are like,
Well, I know that some of them were tested by the CIA on people, right?
Yeah.
Was that called MK Ultra?
MK Ultra.
Yeah.
That's the opening door to a rabbit hole of conspiracy.
But anyway, the documentary is legitimate, and also Comedy Jesus Joe Rogan talks about magic mushrooms non-stop, doesn't he?
I've never done mushrooms.
No,
never.
Well, they would probably provide you. You seem like the kind of guy that would love them as well.
Well, I probably would. And after watching that, me and my girlfriend both said, you know what, I probably would. But I wouldn't know where to get them.
Well. Are these mics still on? Yes. Unfortunately, I was forced into retirement. But one day I will, when they're legalized, I will stage some kind of comeback. Or I'll be like I'll be the spokesman for some kind of magic mushroom company.
It is wild though. Like I was thinking that with like the drinking and the pot. Like I know that's an old argument. Or why isn't pot legal? And it's what I was saying before about what they both did to me, like mentally. Like I can wake up the next day and just shake off pot. Your head's a bit foggy and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you get a little bit strung out if you don't have any, but it's bearable. But with alcohol, it's like a fucking whole body. Like it's a physical, it's psychological.
I used to have guys that would try mushrooms, come back and then ask if they could hug me and thank me for selling them to them because it had changed their life in some kind of way. Guys said, there was one guy that told me he'd just broken up with his partner and he was really depressed and he'd had these and it inspired him to change his job and he was to go traveling and all this kind of stuff. But, there were guys that would microdose them during the day and it helped them to concentrate. There was a guy that bought some because his mother was dying and she never had a drug experience in her life and she wanted to have one with her family. And so they had magic mushrooms together. And
That would have been cool.
And it was like a really special family moment. Like
That would have been nice.
There was a guy who bought them for his grandmother because she liked to go to lawn bowls with her friends and have like a quarter of a magic mushroom capsule. Some reason it made it more enjoyable experience.
I can see that.
That's why, for me, my anecdotal experience of selling magic mushrooms for well over a decade was that these weren't causing damage in society that that matches a Class A illegal drug.
Oh, totally
right?
not. No. It's not doing the same kind of damages.
Meanwhile, you can sit in any pub in New South Wales and piss away your entire life savings in 2 seconds on $10 hits. And it made it hard for me to. That was how I got to the point of just rationalizing it all to say I got too arrogant to be able to say to respect the law. I was these laws don't make sense, so I'm just going to break them. That was the mindset that I had.
I mean, they still don't, like even weed, it's slowly coming around, but it's like you feel like a criminal, whereas if you go somewhere else where it's legal, and you can just, and the funny thing is, if it's legal there, I wouldn't just walk down the street and do it because of how here makes me feel.
Yeah.
I hide in a doorway or you're still hiding it from people. I was in Canada when it became legal and we went to a hockey game and mate, people were smoking it in the arena.
Did you?
No.
No, because
there's kids around and stuff. And I know someone's going to do it and the kids are going to go, what's that? But I didn't want it to be me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I can still do this and respect other people. And not everyone wants a cigarette blown in their face either. Not everyone wants to sit next to a joint.
Yeah. It's cool you can do it, but you'll still do it in the privacy of your own home, or
kind of. Yeah. But then that's also a very addict thing to do, isn't it? I just got to go home and do it alone. It's like with drinking too, Like if I drank and got really social, it'd be probably okay. But it's like I just withdraw.
Just wanted to sit home with the bottles of wine.
Go home and sit in the dark. Don't worry about a glass.
So that's something worth asking was with this drinking that you started doing at home.
Yeah.
Since then, did you get to a point where you were drinking socially more or drinking out at all?
Oh, but only if but not hammered.
Yeah.
And
still only wine?
Yeah, still only wine.
Yeah.
Red wine. And even now, it's still, I don't have an urge to. You could have beer in front of me or whiskeys or whatever, and I'm just like, nah. But if someone handed me a glass of red wine, part of me would be like, it's a nice buzz. It's very close to weed.
Yeah.
In the feeling you get from it, in the sense that it's just kind of like no one's having a fight on red wine.
True.
It's like a warm hug.
We used to, when I was at uni, we had a reference to sometimes we'd have movie nights and just drink red wine because red wine piss is a different kind of piss.
It's heavy.
It's a mellow, cozy kind of piss compared to drinking a ton of rum and then you want to fight everyone, right? There are different kinds of piss.
But even that though, I feel like there's a level of wine gets put in its own category, right? If you drink anything else, you're an alcoholic, right? But if you drink wine, you're a wino. And I think there's a lot of undiagnosed winos out there because of the way society looks at it and everything. And it is socially acceptable. You
can have the same amount of standard drinks in vodka, you're an alcoholic, but wine, it's
it's okay because you did it with dinner and it's classy. Oh, no, but you made a nice pasta and, you work in an office. So, no, you're not an alcoholic.
Even though your teeth are stained red.
Well, that's the worst thing about it. Tell you what, it took a good month after that of just... It's amazing how bad it stains.
So, when we're trying to kiss someone or even talk to someone and they're been on the red wine, so it's just it's a dead giveaway straight away when as soon as they open their mouth.
Especially at the end of the night, just blue tongue and it's a different drunk though, I'd say, and beer is very I burp a lot and
I've been trying to just stick to the beers and avoiding spirits and red wine mainly because I know now I can have beers now. It doesn't affect me to want to do drugs, right?
Yeah, okay.
But I'm still unsure if I think there's a higher danger of wanting to do that if I have like tequila or something like that. Like if I had a bunch of tequila shots, I think there'd be more likely that something in my brain would be like, let's get cocaine.
It's just so fucking expensive in this country. I mean, apart from that, it only lasts 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been big on uppers.
Yeah.
Like it's never been, I don't know. How's this going compared to the guy that shot someone in a hole?
Shout out Ebo Henry. Well, yeah, if you have killed anyone, we can talk about that.
No, unfortunately, it'll just probably slightly be myself. But even then, that's just life, right? We're all... That's actually a bit negative.
So uppers haven't worked for you because you're already your own upper?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But like I tried them when I was younger. It just never appealed to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, and when I got older, it's like, well, I don't want to be awake for 12 hours. Like if I got to spare 12 hours, the last thing I want to do is like, you know, be awake.
So if you're at a party and there was like a mountain of cocaine, couldn't be tempted?
Party might be a little bit different, like depending on the circumstances, what was happening, who I was with, et cetera, but I wouldn't just like have a couple of drinks and then get a bag.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like I find those.
Well, a lot of people do these days, right? A lot of people in Sydney and probably all over the country have gotten to that point now where they can't have 4 or 5 beers without looking at their mate and saying,
Let's get a bag.
Should we get a bag? And the problem is, you know, the quality is going down, and so they're just paying through the nose for absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
You know, ever since they arrested me, got, you know, good quality cocaine supplier out of action.
I've got a story for you off air regarding another comedian. Yeah, I
That reminds me, Sam. I was at a gig when I first met Sam Kisajukan, and he saw me do my set about getting arrested and going to prison, and he goes, "Oh fuck, man, you know, that reminds me of a story I heard recently of this guy in Surrey Hills who got his house raided. His missus dobbed him into the cops and he got his house raided and he had 2 dogs." I'm like, yeah, dude, that was me.
So what happened with your dogs? Sorry, this is the biggest tragedy of the story so far. I'm like, oh, the poor dogs.
That was the worst part.
What happened?
So my beloved boy Tucker, who's a dog de Bordeaux, French Mastiff, he got my ex-fiance rehomed him when I was locked up.
Yeah.
And then she kept the other one, Pompey. So at least I know that they're safe, and the family in Wollongong that have Tucker, they let me at least go and visit him.
Well, that's nice.
Which is nice. But yeah, that was probably the biggest blow of everything.
Oh mate, that hurt so much.
Yeah, he was my best friend.
Yeah, they are. I'm getting sad now. That's fucked.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted dogs, but comedy never really permitted it. And then,
but you got a dog now?
Yeah. We've got it before lockdown, before COVID.
What kind of dog do you have?
Mini Schnauzer.
Yeah.
But like life kind of got to a point where it's like, I know I can do this now. Girlfriend's home all the time.
That's
like
cool.
So she can take care of him if I can't.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. So yeah, it works. But yeah, I would have had one in my 20s. And yeah, they're your best friend. Man, he's the only thing. Like when I was depressed, he was the only reason I got out of bed. You know?
Oh, a lot of people, I think, got COVID puppies, right?
Because you see it.
Yeah. And then I think it's fucked anyone that then try to rehome or get rid of their dogs when they no longer served a purpose after lockdown.
Yeah.
I think that happened as well. But, you know, you can see why people wanted to have dogs. Because,
totally.
Actually, that reminds me. So there was a guy I had on named Joe Kwan who runs
ADHD.
He runs Confit, which is like a fitness program, right? Like they do boot camps and stuff, and they go into juvie centers and stuff and train with guys and and he only hires ex-cons, right? And during lockdown,
that's discrimination.
During lockdown, he got hired by all these big corporates. He suddenly their business became the experts in personal training fitness in confined spaces because everyone's stuck at home.
Oh, in a cell, kind of. Yeah,
everyone's home became a cell. So these guys were working with all these big corporates and telling them how to train at home, right?
It's not bad though.
But it's funny how the universe works. Suddenly they became the authority on it.
Yeah, right. As I say, at least there's a business there. I did a gig once in a remand centre in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Which was when I first started comedy, I said I'd like to do a gig in a prison.
That's on my bucket list. I would absolutely love.
But then as I got a little bit older, it's like, do I really want to perform for a bunch of motorists and ravers? I said, maybe I'll just like to perform to the drug dealers and the thieves.
Unfortunately,
you don't get a choice.
Unfortunately, they're all locked up together most of the time.
Yeah. So you don't really...
at least in remand before they get sentenced, then then they get put in minimum security.
But this was just like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still intimidating.
Yeah.
Like to the sense of, but like the only thing stopping them from walking out onto the street and thumbing a ride back to Melbourne was the threat that they'd go to a real jail if they did. Like it was like their last stop before prison. It was for 18 to 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
That
last chance alone.
Yeah, kind of thing. And like you still had all the security, still had all that staff.
Yeah.
And it was still like it was a remand centre.
Well,
but it was like the gig was, I did all right. Kind of went downhill.
Well, if anyone who works with Long Bay Jail is listening, please invite me anytime you like. I would love to come and do comedy for the lads there.
That'd be a hard one to book. Well, just now, if it ever happens, I'll be keen. I'll probably put my hand up for it. But yeah, no, it's an interesting, because like straight away, like we were all sitting there and one of the other acts was like, what do we do when they come in? Like, do we wait backstage? Like it wasn't. Or do we like, I say, oh, I'm going to wait in the room. I reckon we should wait in the room.
Yeah.
I don't think we should put anything between us and them that makes it feel like we think we're superior.
Yeah.
You know, so we just kind of sat in the room.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we just sat in the room in the corner when they came in and said hello to everyone kind of thing. And like, yeah, we're the comedy. Hey, thanks for coming. You know, and chatted with them and all that kind of stuff.
And did they have fun?
Yeah, no.
No?
No, yeah and no.
Oh.
Like it was it started well. And then one by one, like there was someone Ben Elwood was talking to at the start of the show, like chatting with. But then he just got so angry with what Ben was saying on stage. But he didn't even listen to what Ben was saying. It was more the emotion and everything behind it. He ended up chucking a bottle of water at him and then security had to take him out.
Yeah.
It started to go a little bit sideways.
I mean, yeah, you get that. There are some guys who, as soon as you just have said anything that sets them off, they'll just hear red and won't listen to a single word you say.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah, and then security had to come. I did notice and I'm sure this is in every prison, but like that was definitely divided in groups.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, okay, here's this stereotype of person and there's that. And everyone kind of keeps to their own, don't they?
Yeah, I would have thought, I mean, yeah, it's disappointing to hear that there was the good and the bad because I would have thought these guys, that's something so different, right? And so little things happen that are exciting.
When you're in there.
Yeah, when you're in there. People coming in to like perform comedy would be the most exciting thing in the world, I would imagine.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it, like how they're feeling about it. Like, you know,
yeah.
What does this do?
Yeah, some guy, if you were in a yard and some guy's ruining the show by pegging bottles and it was going to be cut off early, you'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, we're all having fun here.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of that. I think we were just like, all right, how's this? It was for a TV thing. That was the most interesting one. It never got off the ground. It was just gigs in weird places, and that was like a not-for-TV pilot that they were...
So this got filmed?
Considering...
So there's footage of this somewhere?
Maybe, with just with one camera, but it was one small thing.
Oh, man, you got to track that down.
No, I don't. I mean, I'd be okay with it because I did all right.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything too bad.
I would love to see that footage.
If it was... it was just like in a little school hall type of thing. I don't know. It was probably like a function room or whatever.
Yeah.
Like not function room, but you know. Yeah. But I always watch those shows on TVs and try to figure out who would be in prison. Did you ever do that?
If what?
Like if you watch a TV show that's based on a jail or whatever, you look at the characters and go, oh, that'd be me.
No, I've never done that.
That's usually the one that gets fucking hammered really early on. I think who you'd want to be is, have you seen Oz?
Oh, I've seen it a very long time ago. That was a great show.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
There was that one guy in that, Ryan O'Reilly. He was played by, I can't remember his name, but he also plays Tina Fey's boyfriend in 30 Rock. Really good actor, but he's an Irish guy in this show, and he's a solo operator, but he plays all the other gangs off each other.
Yeah. Is it in Oz?
Yeah. So if he wants like one of the homeboys taken out, he like sets them up with the bikies kind of thing, and he like sets up kind of like a double cross thing, so he never has to get his hands dirty.
I tried to look it up recently. It wasn't on any of the streaming services. I couldn't find.
It might be on Binge because it's HBO.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Good show.
Yeah.
Kind of lost the plot about 4 or 5 seasons in, but it's very good stuff.
But there are so many movies and TV shows about prison, and I didn't find that to be particularly accurate to my experience.
Oh, look, I don't think any of them would be accurate to what the actual experience is.
Yeah.
Chris Wainhouse has some interesting material.
Well, he spent a bit in prison
he did a
as well.
couple of months. He classed someone, and he's got some interesting...
Yeah, I'm sure I'll meet him at some point.
Material about like when on the first day when they like lift up your balls, like so they can look under your balls.
Yeah.
I can't remember the punchlines, but he's got some good stuff in there.
Yeah,
but that took him a long time to talk about.
Yeah,
like compared to like you burst in the scene with, I'm just known as the comedian who just got out of jail. Whereas I think it took him a little while to process, you know.
But the difference between us is, he was a comedian who went to prison, right?
Yeah.
I was just some guy who's decided to do comedy afterwards because I had a chance when I was locked up to think, like, what did I regret not doing?
Yeah, what do you regret? Yeah. I was thinking that today, actually. It's probably worked out well, and it probably even worked in your favour, like when it came to sentencing.
It did, 100% it did, because even the judge himself said when we talked, or I had these references from people in the comedy scene, and we talked about the fact that I've been doing that so much, and he liked that as being a rehabilitation story he'd never heard before, right? He even smirked and said, "This is a new one, right?" A guy doing stand-up comedy as his way to kind of get himself back on the straight and narrow.
Well, I mean, even in the judge's eyes, he knows how hard it is because we said it earlier. Like people are like, "Oh fuck, I could never do that." So to the judge, he'd know it wouldn't be something that you were doing just to get off.
Yeah.
Like you could fake rehab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know the people that are, I'll go get clean, and they get off or whatever. Like you could push through something like that, but I don't think anyone could get up on stage unless they actually wanted to and attempt comedy like multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, so I think being in a community, and then especially if people spoke up and did all that stuff, that definitely would have worked.
I had references, and there was a few guys from the Sydney comedy scene, Artie Gallagher, Sam Bowden, and Zane Freeler that were in the room.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And so the judge knew that. So I think that helped as well, I think, to show that, there was indicators that I was in the process of turning my life around. And so I think that made it harder for the judge to see any merit in sending me back to prison.
And I mean, it is like, at the end of the day, it's mushrooms, right?
No, well, that was another part of the argument, right? Which was like, it's fucking mushrooms.
They go
like,
on the ground.
come
mate.
on.
They go on the ground.
Well, I mean,
I know you cultivated them.
Yeah. Grew them, dried them, put them into capsules.
How long does that take to grow up?
I think the process is about 6 weeks.
And how exactly would you go?
No comment.
What do they sell for?
But
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I couldn't move without looking over my shoulder.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same way I said to a guy in the yard about like the fact at Long Bay. I said, "Fuck, I'm never coming back here. Like this is my lesson learned." And he just smirked at me and he said, "You'll forget." And the reality is most of the guys in the yard are in there for their second, third, fourth, fifth time.
Yeah, right.
Because they forget.
Like how bad it is in there, or like what it's like in there.
They just forget that life is better not being in prison. You know, it's not that it's so much as it's bad in there. It's just dead time. You just feel like you're just literally wasting your life.
Well, I mean, that's why they call it doing time, right? Because it's literally...
Yeah.
So you don't take that Avon Barksdale approach? You only do 2 days now? The day you go in and the day you come out?
We're talking Wire references now, eh? I love that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was like probably my #1 show of all time.
Got to get your mind right. That's a fucking great show. Yeah, yeah. That's how I. Yeah, that's how I see that stuff. But it's interesting to hear because everyone has in their head what it is like, and I'm sure the media and TV and whatnot hasn't helped, and I'm sure there is a degree of that. But then you think about all the people that did, like, there's people that are unlucky as well.
Yeah. There's I think there's a huge difference between doing a few months and doing 10 years, right?
Oh, totally.
Just in terms of its effect on you, and then how hard it is to reintegrate after you're out. But for the time I was in, I was having a blast. My lawyer said to me when
once you felt safe, once you know you're safe though.
So I never really felt in danger at any point. And so my lawyer said to me at one stage that it was going to take him a bit longer. So I got a new lawyer after about 2 months in there. And he said, Andrew, it's going to take me a bit longer to prepare everything for another bail application. And at that point, I said to him, no worries, take your time.
Really? You're having a good time.
and he goes, what do you mean? I go, no, take your time. It's all good. I'm fine here. And he goes, I'll be honest, you're the most relaxed client I've ever had about being in prison. And I said, that's all good. I'm having a good time in here. Because
as long as you can make the best out of a bad situation.
People in lockdown, right, are stuck in isolation and were stuck in their own houses and getting depressed. I was playing into yard touch footy, right, and playing chess, and I was having a sweet old time exercising. I was off the drugs and alcohol and starting to feel good again, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
It was free rehab for me.
Yeah.
Also, I think just after numbing myself with cocaine and alcohol for so long, like just feeling these raw feelings, even negative ones, and having to confront them, made me feel really alive for the first time in such a long time.
Yeah, what's it like a night? Like what time's lights out?
I mean, it's no real light set. You get locked up pretty early. At Park Lee, you're getting locked up around 3:15, 3:30. At Long Bay, you get locked up at like 1:45
in the afternoon for the rest of the day.
That's it. You're done. That's your day done.
What about dinner?
Dinner served at like 1:45.
Dinner.
You're getting dinner at
what time's lunch?
10:45.
That's breakfast, like 5.
7:45.
Yeah, right.
O'clock. You know, you get up, you're out in the yard by 7:45, lunch at 10:45, and then you're back at your cell at 1:45, and your dinner's already sitting there waiting. It might have been there for fucking 20 minutes, half an hour already. So
and then you're in there till the next morning.
The reason you have your dinner served so early is because the kitchen's run by inmates. They've got to be locked up as well, right? Okay. So they've got to get locked up, and then you got your food. But I'd often eat my food when it's hot at 1:45. So then you're hungry again by 6 p.m. So particularly if you've been in the yard walking around training all day, your body's starving. Yeah. So that's why it was so important that you have loved ones that put money into your prison account so you can buy groceries, right? Because you need extra food.
Oh, so there's like an IGA in there, right?
Well, you get a grocery list, right? Called a prison buy-up list, and you get that once a week, and then you have $100 limit. I think there was some time during COVID where the limit went up to 150 or something, but the whole time I was in there, it was $100. And so then you just have to you got your price list, and I would just be there like an accountant writing down my numbers,
trying to work it out,
doing the math, because you couldn't go anything that you went over. You weren't sure what was going to get taken off the list.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right? So you might be something you really wanted. So you had to try and get like the number perfect. I remember one time I nailed it only once ever, and I had my buy-up list come back, and it said money spent 100.00.
Yeah, nice.
And I even brought it to the yard to show people. I was like, look, guys, nailed it.
And what's it like with people? I'd say that's the equivalent of like commissary then, or whatever it is.
That is the same thing.
Oh, it's called the same. Yeah, right.
We just call it buy-ups here, but it's the same thing as commissary.
What happens with like people standing over people for.
That happens, right? In different yards, or guys use it for that's the currency for gambling, all kinds of stuff like that. But there were instances where guys would go into other guys' cells that they knew had no guts, and would just to start taking their food. And if the guy spoke up, they just crack him in the head, just be like, "Yeah, what are you going to do?" And so, I mean, if the guys stood up for themselves, they'd find that people would do it less. But
yeah.
Like, there was a guy that I got along with really well who was a smaller bloke, and I know he got beat up in his cell and robbed of like a whole bunch of his food. And I was like, said to my cellmate, we should do something about it. And then he was like, mate, you got to let him do his own jail. It's fine to back him up if he stands up for himself, but if he's not going to do that, we can't do anything for him.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
But I was lucky enough that I am not small, didn't look like a pushover, and had like made mates in there.
Yeah.
That helped. Were
you top bunk or bottom bunk?
So it varied. So sometimes you negotiate it with your cellie. Because I'm so tall, I wanted to be top bunk because otherwise I'd be banging my head all the time. But you just negotiate it. But it was like all those things come down to negotiations with whoever you draw as a cellmate. I had a cellmate who he was a like OCD clean freak, didn't like to chat much, and when I first was in his cell, he was like, first thing you got to know, home and away, Monday to Thursday, non-negotiable. So
really,
yeah, he wanted to watch Home and Away every night, and I didn't know that on Thursdays, Home and Away is like a triple episode, like it goes for like an hour and a half.
Oh, Jesus.
But a lot of guys in jail watch Home and Away.
Yeah.
Heaps of guys are obsessed with it, right? Because I guess it's just something consistent, right? That they can talk about. They get hooked on it.
Yeah, right.
I could never understand it.
Oh, that makes sense.
But yeah, this guy did not want to share the remote with me like for fucking anything until like it was time for him to go to bed. Then I was allowed to channel surf then.
Really?
Yeah. But,
oh, right.
I mean, he'd go to bed early. We're talking about like maybe like 8 o'clock. But still, I only stayed with him for a couple of weeks before I found a bloke I got along with better that had an opening and quickly jumped ship.
Yeah, right. So you can put in for a transfer or...
Yeah, if there's an opening, before they bring in new inmates into the wing, you can quickly go and ask the screws and just say, hey, can I move over there? And they usually just said, yeah. Cause
it's not two men in a truck, is it? You just grab your PJs and off you go.
They don't want conflict, right? So if there's two guys that they know are going to like bunk up, they're going to get along, they'd rather that.
Than a fight or walking into a dead body in the morning.
Totally, that happens. Or there you hear heaps of instances of guys who they'd tell stories that they had a new guy walk into their cell and they could tell within like 2 minutes that they were not going to get along.
Yeah, and
so they would just say, "Mate, buzz up. You're not living with me."
Really?
Yeah, buzz up. You're going now.
Right.
And so they don't just have to press the buzzer and say, "Oi, chief." That's what they call the prison guards. She said, "Chief, this isn't going to work out."
Chief, it's so obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, chief, this isn't going to work out.
Fair enough. I mean, at least that's there though, and people can, because otherwise, I suppose you got to think that the guards are trying to make it as easy for themselves as possible.
Well, you can buy usually electronics items for your cell. So you can get a TV, a sandwich press, and a kettle, right? You can have a kettle in your cell, but at Long Bay, they stopped letting you buy sandwich presses because a guy killed his cellmate with one.
What, burned him with it?
No, he put it in a pillowcase.
Pulled
it in a pillowcase and whacked him over the head with it 15 times. Jeez. A couple of years ago. But there's still heaps of sandwich presses floating around the wing, so you can get like hand-me-downs, guys can hook you up. I was very lucky that in like my first few days in the yard at Long Bay, a guy came up to me and goes, "I fucking know you from somewhere." And I was like thinking like, fuck, like, you don't want to be recognized in cases. And he's like, "Mate, you used to shout everyone beers at the Columbian whenever you won on the pokies." And I'm like, fuck, I recognize you. And so this guy hooked me up with everything. He was like a very well-connected guy in the yard. And so next thing you know, I had a kettle, a sandwich press, and sometimes he'd put fresh eggs on my pillows.
Yeah.
Because he had a
chicken in his cell.
Because you couldn't buy fresh eggs.
Yeah, right.
But guys that worked with some of the higher jobs as like a sweeper, was like a admin guy, like a guy that hands out food and cleans the wings. They get a carton of fresh eggs every week. So every week he'd give me one egg. But yeah, so I was very lucky that this guy remembered me and then looked after me in the yard. Yeah. And because he was well respected by everyone, I'm sure that went away to making sure I didn't get anyone trying to hassle me either.
Well, yeah, in those kind of places, like your word, your bond, isn't it? And like who's with you or... Yeah. You can see the whole... I mean, I only know from what I see on TV.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a big thing to follow through with what you say you're going to do.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, it starts there on the street, though. Like all that, snitches get stitches and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff starts before you even get in.
Yeah.
And I think...
But then in there it's heightened because everyone can see you. So if you call someone a bad name, if you call someone a gronk or something like that, and people can see it and hear it, then it's going to set someone off because you've immediately disrespect them and
in
as
front
witnesses.
of everyone. Yeah. Oh, the fucking psychology of it. Just a bunch of dudes.
Like, I remember...
I'm interviewing you now. My shit didn't go sideways far enough.
Well, look, the podcast has been going on for a very long time. You can come back anytime and talk about the next time it goes sideways.
It's just always constant.
What else you got? What else is...
No, I don't know. Like, it's just... it's good. I'm good. I'm good. I just always have a habit of making things harder for myself.
Yeah.
But your stuff's that's more interesting to me.
What, you self-sabotage yourself?
Not self-sabotage, but I'm not driven to... I don't want to be recognized. So I have no desire to pursue...
You don't want to be recognised, but you work in entertainment.
Yeah, but I don't want that level of attention that people get at that level, which is probably part of what you were asking before. I like the idea of behind-the-scenes stuff.
So does that mean you got to work hard but not work too hard?
I don't know what it means, to be honest with you, but because there's not as many opportunities in this country for writing teams and creative teams and all that kind of stuff as there are in other places.
Well, if you're talking about working behind the scenes, would you like to write for TV or something like that?
Oh man, I'd love to write something for TV. Yeah, I don't know about for TV or for a great idea, not just anything, something. Yeah. Yeah. I just like the idea of Larry David pre Curb Your Enthusiasm would be my ultimate achievement. Everyone
creating Seinfeld?
No, but everyone in the industry knows who you are and what you look like, but no one else does.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
No one knew his face.
Yeah, so you could still go down the street, still do whatever. I mean, maybe not in Hollywood, but but there's still that level of anonymity. Whereas Jerry was just and all of them were the face of the show.
Well, I guess you're only one big idea away from that, right?
Hey, we're all only one big idea away from that. One big idea and a fucking shitload of hard work. I think that's one of the best shows on TV, Curb. This is surface stuff now, but that is a good show.
A lot of people love it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and it's the only show that can come back every 5-10 years and it doesn't matter because it's on his life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that he's aged or other shows they try and do it and it's a reunion. It's all right, well, she's had filler. He's fat now.
Have you ever done any TV stuff?
Acting or stand-up?
Either.
I've done stand-up, yeah.
Yeah, but not acting?
No. I can only play myself.
Yeah.
It's like most comedians. I can play me, and even that I struggle at sometimes.
What about a comedy show about a guy who's just gotten out of prison and become a comedian? What?
That's not bad.
Sold!
It's an interesting take, that's for sure. Do you ever worry about the flags that raises? I know rehabilitation and all that kind of stuff, but say when it came to TV, and all that kind of stuff.
What do you mean?
Like in your background, in your history. Hang on, I'm in my hand. Like just having that there.
Am I worried about how that's going to
Well, just because it's such
me?
a shallow, superficial.
I mean, I'm not too worried about it because I only started doing this because I wanted to make people laugh, right? Because I thought that there was value in that.
Because you'll have problems traveling now, right?
I'll have problems traveling, but I mean, there's plenty of countries you can still go to. And
oh, really? Oh, because it's not a violent crime? Can you go to the States? Actually, no, you can't. There's no way you can, because I went for possession. Like I tried to get in and I had a charge for possession and they wouldn't let me in. So I doubt you'd get in with supply.
Well, I know some guys who recently went to the States with much more significant charges. They did prison time, right?
Really?
So there are loopholes. I think money certainly helps, but...
Oh, look, I should have just ticked no on the box and you would have had no fucking idea.
On the ESTA form, yeah, but I'm not sure... all that stuff doesn't matter at the moment because I'm not allowed to leave the country for another 2 years anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, why's that?
It's part of my my ICO, my intensive corrections orders conditions is, it says I have to ask permission, right? But I mean, I'm just in the middle of trying to get permission to fucking go to Melbourne for the comedy festival, and it seems like it's a fucking nightmare.
What, even just in a state?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Might be a while before. And that's a luxury problem to deal with.
Yeah, but, totally.
Even in terms of career opportunities, I'm not too worried about that because any opportunities I get at the moment are a bonus.
Well, that's good then. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Like,
and you're not limiting yourself by not traveling anyway. It's just that was just something I was curious about because I know it's been a problem for me in the past.
Yeah. Well, I was when I first started doing comedy worried that I was going to be not allowed to do certain gigs because they were going to say like there was going to be blowback, but there hasn't been that at all. And
no, I don't. No. Like if you're up there going, you know, I don't even need to say it. If you're a deviant,
yeah,
or like a violent offender, it might be a lot harder. You know, but with the nature of what it was and whatnot, like I'm sure, like it's, as I said, it's just a ragtag bunch of misfits.
I've now done what, like I keep a log. I've done 250 gigs now, and I haven't had a single person respond badly, or like negatively to me doing jokes about getting arrested and going to prison and selling drugs, right? So if the blowback was going to happen at some point, it would have already happened.
Oh, look, and there's also the people... Half of them probably think you're joking.
Well,
like I guarantee you, people will start coming up to you. Did that really happen? Did you really go to jail?
That happens all the time.
Yeah,
or people will have Googled me. But I also, at the start of a lot of my sets, I'll reference an article from the Daily Telegraph to try and add some like legitimacy to what I'm talking about. But still, people will either Google it or ask me afterwards. You're right.
Because I find that fascinating. It's like, why would I say it? Like, how could you come up with that whole story if you didn't live it? You know, it's like, well, you think I just sit at home and, so I'll pretend I'm a mushroom manufacturer.
It would take a lot more of a creative man than me to come up with that shit, you know?
Oh, and you'd come up with something a little bit, you know, something with more weight, but still not too, you know what I mean? You'd push it closer to the line.
No, like what?
Well, I don't know, there's got to be something.
I do benefit from the fact that mushrooms is funny, right? Like
I think it is. I think mushrooms would be looked on even easier than pot because, I say that because I'd say mushrooms would have a much smaller market share. Like in the, you know what I mean? Like the amount of mushroom suppliers that they'd see compared to dope dealers would be, it's probably like a 10th, I'd assume, or more, like smaller.
Smaller, yeah. I would imagine.
Like for every 20, 50 dope dealers. I put it this way, I've never known anyone that sold mushrooms.
Right. And so even now I get messages from people like saying, hey man, we can't find any mushrooms since you've been gone. Can you help us out? I have to say, sorry, no, I can't. But yeah,
they must be spewing.
So
because in their heads they're like, fuck, I bet he can.
Just admit it, admit it, you don't. Yeah. So, but there were guys in the yard, like that. It was a running joke in prison. Like, this guy's in here for mushrooms, and like, I was like, oh yeah, like, do you reckon I'm going to get fucked over much with my sentence? And there were guys in there for like kilos of coke, and they're like, nah, mate. They're like, they're going to let you out soon, and when they let you out, they'll give you your mushrooms back. Like, that's how much of a non-crime it is.
Well, yeah. Once you compare it to like life ruiners, you know, or not even life ruiners, but like
Heroin, meth, like, yeah.
Even coke, though.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know anyone that's ever said, "Oh, I'm a mushroom addict."
Mm.
Like,
No,
people
never.
Take
It's
they
not-
go into the woods.
It's
or
not
they
addictive.
Take
No.
it and they chill out with their friends. But
That's
all those
it.
other ones,
People
yeah.
would have it a few times a year when they went away camping with their friends, and that was it.
Do you find people sell the drugs to people that are like them, or like into the?
Oh, yeah, it would usually be social circles, like people that are all trippy, or that they have a social circle that like the idea of going away for a weekend and tripping on mushrooms. Yeah, of course.
Because I'm coming to that from a meth angle specifically. Like, I don't think any like someone that was considering selling drugs is going, oh yeah, I'll do meth. Like, just because of the clientele it would attract. I would assume most people that sell meth use meth.
Yep, I would imagine so.
And they're probably funding, or that's how it started.
Yep.
You know, and it's to fund a habit.
Well, that's like that. The user dealer kind of model is very common, and that's usually the guys that get caught. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for people that are dealing, but also high drug users, right? You're more likely to not be thinking straight because they're constantly affected by drugs, so they're going to more likely to make mistakes. That's certainly what happened in my case.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
because I mean, I wouldn't do it because, like I said, I wouldn't want to live over my shoulder. But there was that part in my head that went, oh, it'd either be pot or a party drug like ecstasy, because I know who's coming through the door.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, coke's too far out of reach. Don't want to deal with meth you know what I mean? Like the clientele.
Well, everyone that was buying drugs off me was all like wealthy professional people that just had a nice manageable drug habit, right?
And that's what also makes it even easier to justify when you've got all these professionals coming through your door.
Totally. It was doctors and journalists and lawyers and people that work in marketing and well-paid tradies and TV producers and half the Triple J Hottest 100 and you know, like,
which are
like, you know, I don't name names, but you know, some very famous people and famous athletes and all this kind of stuff. It's like my little black book, you know,
little book of secrets.
could talk, yeah, like all these people that had their shit together and had a lot of disposable income that they just every now and then wanted to take some party drugs in the same way people clock off on a weekend and just smash themselves on booze.
And what do mushrooms sell for?
So they were selling in like 1 gram capsules, right? So I sold them either like for a small amount, like individually, $30. But you know, 1 or 2 of those, and you're having a 3-hour high. So compared to Coke for a 3-hour high, that's much cheaper. Or if people bought in bulk, they got cheaper. So you know, if they're buying hundreds, it was much cheaper.
Yeah, right. So that was all gravy too, because you were growing them. Yeah, so that's all profit.
Yeah. So it was good while it lasted.
Yeah, while it lasted.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
That's probably enough of me talking about my crimes.
No, mate, I find it fascinating.
Yeah, but we're here to talk about you.
That's all right. Let's add some weight onto it.
How long have we done?
I don't know. I'm just pulling her out now. It's 20 to 8.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah, we can go or we can wrap up. Whatever. I'm keen.
What else do we want to talk about?
This is the part. I don't know. Ask me a question or ask a question or move on.
So are you doing Melbourne or Sydney Comedy Festival?
No, I'm having this year off.
Yeah, cool.
Just to get my shit together. Got to get my head right, and you know, get all my shit together.
How do you write? Do you sit at home and you've got notes on your phone from ideas you had, and then you try and write it down,
and then I'll copy them over into things. Sometimes I'll just like I've gone through phases. Like are you not recently, but before COVID and lockdown, I'd just write for a couple of hours a day.
Yeah,
usually about what's on my mind. you know, and what I'm thinking about and whatnot. And then other times I just pick a topic and go, all right, I'm going to write as much as I can about bananas.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I'm going to write as much as I can about sneakers, and you see if there's something in there. And you'll be surprised. Like it happened to me a couple of months ago. I did a line, and I even said it to the audience. I said, I thought of that line 10 years ago, and I haven't had an opportunity to say it until now.
What, you couldn't find a home for it?
Yeah, I couldn't find a place to put it.
Yeah.
And it just came up off something with the audience.
Yeah.
You know, like it just came to me naturally. And it was like, oh, right. The couple of times I tried to crowbar it in, nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. So there'll be stuff that you write down that you'll never make fly, or you think, fuck, I can't make that work. And then just at one point, it'll just slot perfectly into something, or it'll just, like, there's always a home.
Yeah.
You know, like I've never thrown away anything I've ever written.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just go back and look over
I've
it?
actually never done that.
You haven't looked over it? So you got it written somewhere, but you've got no idea what's there.
No, I'm like, take the stuff that works and build on that.
Yeah.
And like if it didn't, push it aside. And yeah. So there's a lot of stuff back there that I could probably go over and go, oh, you know what? That's a good idea. Especially for my, 22-year-old self. It's hard being a virgin.
I'm certainly. Imagine doing that stuff now. That's so funny. A lot of wank jokes, some of them still work.
Oh, they do, though.
I find I'm not good enough at writing to be. If I write something that doesn't work, then I'm not good enough to fix it, right? Stuff either has to work the first or second time, or otherwise I'm putting these things in a document of shit that didn't work, and I don't know how to.
I know as soon as I open my mouth on stage if it's going to work.
But you don't know when you write it?
Look, some of them when I write it, I know 100%. I'm like, that's going to kill. But that comes with experience. Yeah. And that comes with time. Like I didn't know that at the start. You're just like, oh, fuck, that works. I can't wait to say that. And then there's other ones that I think they're going to work.
Yeah.
And they're funny. And I'll spend the day trying to memorize the wording and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as I get on stage and go, oh, so you know how bananas sometimes are green? And I'm like, and then in my head, I'm like, where is this going? This is going nowhere. There's no punchline. What are you doing? And it just becomes some stupid, convoluted rant.
Yeah.
The problem with like writing is crucial to comedy. Obviously, it's a massive part of it. But performing comedy is different to writing it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people perform their written word.
Yeah.
Like they say it verbatim as it's written on the page. Like I remember before I started, there was someone, people still do it now, but I'll use an example from someone who no longer does comedy, and I can't even remember who it was, but they were on stage at a gig and they were talking about women, and it was about 20 years ago. But instead of addressing the women in the room and asking questions like, why do you guys go to the toilet in pairs? This is just an example.
Yeah.
He'd say, and they always go to the toilet in pairs. Like he kept saying they, and like there was none in the room. And it's like when he was writing it and it was just him and his computer or him and his pen, yeah, sure, they're the thoughts you have with yourself. Why do they do this? Why do they, sure. But when you're presenting it to a room full of people, there's things that need to be changed to take into consideration.
Adapt it to the world in front of you.
Yeah, there's people there. It's a live room with a live audience, and that's a woman, and that's a woman, and that's, Some people, you can just almost see them. They're reading the back of their eyelids, and you get to a point as well, and you've got it. Like you're likable on stage and there's an affability there. Once people are comfortable in your presence, you get a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
And like, you'll just be a bit looser, like with the setups, and you just trust yourself a bit more with getting it right, the wording right.
That's what I noticed. That's why I have to address, when I start talking about prison, I have to address the reason why, like in the first minute, because I noticed when I was doing like 10 minutes of jokes and I would mention that I went to prison, but I wouldn't have mentioned magic mushrooms till 4 or 5 minutes in. I noticed that sometimes people were sitting there a bit apprehensive because I hadn't addressed it yet.
They want to know. What is it?
Like, wait, this guy...
Did I ask you that when I first met you? That feels like something I might have asked you. What? Like, you got to say that early.
Possibly. But most people must have been sitting there thinking, like, is this guy a sex offender? Like, what?
But that's why, like, you want to get to it early, just because.
Now, that's why I attack it now early, and then I can see it kind of relaxes people enough that, like, then I have the right to do the jokes after that.
Yeah. No, totally. And it makes sense. And mushroom straight away, it softens it.
Yeah.
And like it just goes, yeah. And it paints who you are.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I actually reckon it probably works definitely better than acid.
Yeah.
Because people associate that with a chemical compound, you know, that's dripped onto a piece of paper or whatever. And weed's just too common, and everyone that doesn't smoke weed has their own preconceptions about what pot does and what pot is.
Yeah, so it's enough. It's left field enough.
Yeah, and it's obscure enough.
Yeah,
and, you know, like like it's actually kind of funny in that sense. Yeah. If you're gonna go to jail, do it for mushrooms. No, just...
Psilocybin mushrooms.
So, what would you say to yourself? What would you say to your 15-year-old self if you could look back? Actually, when do you think shit went sideways for you then? Like, would you say shit went sideways when your partner took all that coke, or would you say shit went sideways for you the first time you made that transaction and did a sale?
I mean, it's similar to what you said before. It's just like it's a spectrum of cascading fucking shit going sideways forever.
But
right?
can you pinpoint, could you go, oh yeah, that was a turning point?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly getting sent to prison was a huge turning point in terms of me changing direction.
No, but I mean, before that, did you see any, like, are there any indicators that it was on its way down before that happened, or?
I mean, I definitely declined into becoming like a massive cokehead over like the few years prior to that. Probably around the time I expanded from just selling magic mushrooms to then other drugs, because I just built up more contacts and had access to these things. And then, certainly. I never had a problem with having heaps of magic mushrooms in my house because I didn't, they weren't addictive. I didn't need to eat them all the time. But having mountains of coke in the house was a problem because I would find an excuse, any reason in the world, just to have a little bit. And then once I had a little bit, I'd be doing it for days.
Yeah, days, Jesus. I still remember the first time I went to Edinburgh in 2007, I stayed in a flat with 14 Aussies, and a coke dealer came back like after a late show one night with us. And like he wanted to do it himself, but he couldn't pull the bag out without offering it to 10 people sitting around the table. Mate, he must have gone through so much coke.
Yeah.
Like he was,
But if he's a coke dealer, like probably meant fuck all to him anyway, you know?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's probably factored that into his budgeting and
Yeah.
But it was just like, man, this must be about 9 bags by now. He just keeps pulling them out.
Like I was doing about 10 grand of coke up my nose a week for years.
10 grand a week?
Yeah.
What's that in weight?
Over an ounce.
Okay. So what's that? Gram a day, 2 grand, 4 grams a day.
About that.
That's doable. like in that sense, like it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But hang on, like really, once you're at that level, like that's only 3 big lines a day.
But you don't have it every day because I'd have to sleep and recover off for 2 days, right? So it's more like what, 5, 6, six a day.
Okay, but how many lines are you getting out of that?
Oh, heaps. Like,
or you just like big rails?
Yeah, it became the law of diminishing returns. I'd call them Godzilla lines. I'd have to do these absolute monsters, like size of a fucking 30-centimeter ruler and thick, just to fucking. Because after 2 days, 3 days no sleep, like you're not feeling it. I'm just so numbed out. I'd have to do some absolutely over the top, 1.5 gram line just to fucking feel it.
Jesus.
Yeah. But I mean, my heart was. I've got my nose is fucked. I think I've got a massive hole, like in my. I've got a deviated septum.
Yeah.
And I could feel my heart at some points of that, just saying to me, like, mate, we're gonna struggle here. Like.
Yeah. There's an agent in the UK that had a heart attack. He was a big coke user. The first time I tried it was in the UK.
Yeah.
It was at a gig. Because it's only like 50 pounds there. And someone I was on with, they're like, so do you want some? I'm going to get some and we'll go out after. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll try it. And they got it. We started it at the gig. And then after the gig, they're like, oh, I think I'm just going to go home. And I was like halfway in. It's like, well, fuck now. What do I do?
I'm wired. What am I supposed to do?
I went home and finished it alone.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I'm not going to save half till next time. I want to see what it does.
Yeah.
So I'll just finish it now. And then I just
Well, that's what I used.
till
That's
7
what I
a.m.
used to do a lot. I used to do that heaps. Just sit there watching movies on my own, just smoking ciggies and doing line after line after line.
Yeah, right. How can you concentrate on a movie though?
I don't know.
Just staring at something.
I don't know. No, sometimes it like hyper focus me. I'd be.
Yeah, well, I suppose with the ADHD to work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Interesting stuff.
Cool. All right, let's leave it there.
Okay, sounds good.
It's been a good session.
Yeah, I've had fun. It's been all right.
Yeah.
Sorry for not bringing the as much weight as.
What's it? No need to compare yourself. We've got a whole bunch of stories coming through. All right, this has been another episode of Shit's Gone Sideways. I've been here with Daniel Towns. Mate, thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been
Cheers.
great.
Shit's Gone Sideways.